My next guest is the newest member of the president's communications team. He is Tony Sayegh, White House Senior Advisor for Strategy. Tony, thanks for coming in.
Ed, great to be with you.
First of all, Democrats say they are guided by the truth. Believe them?
Well, if they are guided by the truth, they're going to avoid bringing up these ridiculous articles of impeachment through the Judiciary Committee forwarded to the House, because the truth is clearly on the president's side. And that's what 12-star Democratic witnesses testified to. At the end of this process, what have we learned, Ed? The president certainly didn't do anything impeachable, didn't do anything wrong. He exerted his absolute right to withhold aid. It was not conditioned on anything. Ukraine got the aid ultimately. They got the meeting they asked for ultimately.
He was pressing them for investigations.
He wants investigation into corruption, which I think we all agree is a very legitimate thing for the president to be concerned about. He also wanted other European allies to participate in supporting the Ukraine. But ultimately, every single witness said the president got to the right Ukraine policy. He gave them $400 million of defense aid, the Javelin missiles, which the Obama administration always never did and failed to do. And ultimately, you got exactly what the policy you wanted.
That case seems to be working with some Democrats, like Jeff Van Drew. You know him from New Jersey, who has said he's unlikely anyway to vote for articles of impeachment. And he gave an interview with USA Today in the last 24 hours. He said it was unsavory but not impeachable. My question there is, would it make more sense for the White House to acknowledge that this wasn't perfect, as the president has said, but nowhere near impeachable? Well,
listen, I think the evidence proves it's not impeachable, and everyone could have their own view on the phone call. The president released the transcript voluntarily in an unprecedented show of transparency. Don't forget, Ed, you had Nancy Pelosi literally start this impeachment before she saw the transcript.
Right.
And the transcript clearly vindicates the idea that the president did anything wrong. You could always argue style. You could always argue things like that. We know Democrats have thought about impeaching the president on his Twitter feed, for goodness sake. This is not what the country deserves, and that's what you're starting to see in the public opinion poll.
So you can make that case. Jerry Nadler has, the president himself can make that case, in his legal team. Deadline tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. Nadler says he wants to know, is the president going to send himself or legal counsel at least at Wednesday's hearing? Yes or no?
Well, as Jerry Nadler probably knows, the president's in London right now at the NATO summit.
But he can send his lawyer.
Planning to travel to London.
Will he send his lawyer?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of, obviously, what we're going to respond to. We have the deadline today for the chairman's first letter. We have another deadline at the end of Friday. I think the issue, though, Ed, is what are we participating in? We've not been given the name of the witnesses on Wednesday. We know the Democrats choose 3 of them. Republicans only get 1. The White House get none. So what exactly are we sending our lawyers to do? Who are they going to talk to?
Well, let me try to answer that question.
No, but my point is, if we are being invited into the process now in the 9th inning, right? Because let's remember, Adam Schiff had his basement hearings that were sequestered. He leaked information out. He was shamed into having public hearings that proved the president's innocence, essentially. So now they're trying to desperately salvage the failure of the Intel Committee in the Judiciary.
And the president complained about that over and over. And here's what he said on Fox and Friends about a week ago. Watch.
The bottom line is all of those witnesses, they're all shifty shifts. Don't forget, there was no due process. You can't have lawyers. We couldn't have any witnesses.
So he says we couldn't have lawyers. Shifty Schiff, he says. It was unfair. I want due process. So why can't Tony Sayegh tell me today and tell the American people, we want our lawyers, we want due process?
Well,
you won't commit to it.
So what I will commit to is the following. First of all, we are going to respond to the letters. I could commit to that.
So you're going to send your lawyers in that letter?
We're going to answer that in the letter, and not on the show. I know it would be a nice scoop for sure.
Why won't you commit?
But the bottom line remains, if you look at how Jerry Nadler is setting up these hearings, this is the important point. Okay, for us to participate, we need to give up our rights. We give up our rights to executive privilege. That is a given constitutional authority for the executive branch to protect themselves. The only way Jerry Nadler doesn't interfere is if we capitulate to him. If we give up all fairness in this process, all of our due process rights in this process, our constitutional rights in this process, how is that fair? And by the way, let's remember, we've already gone through months and months and months of a rigged process. Why all of a sudden are we compelled to be the ones who have to answer whether or not we'll send our attorneys? Well, we know the process has been designed.
Because the president from the beginning has said,
but it's been designed against him.
It's the president who said it, Tony, not me or anyone else. He said,
so why wasn't it fair from the start?
Adam Schiff and the whistleblower.
Yeah.
And in fact, here's what Doug Collins said a little earlier on Fox News Sunday about who he wants as his first witness. Watch. Okay, well, we had that bite. He basically said, I want Adam Schiff because Adam Schiff talked to the whistleblower, or at least his staff did, and we want him to be called as a witness. Why?
Sure. So Adam Schiff has basically appointed himself judge, jury, and executioner. It's as if you were arrested by an officer. That officer is the same person who prosecutes you in the court, and then that officer is the same judge who adjudicates the prosecution. So if Adam Schiff, who started this process in a very secretive way, wants us to believe that he has a factual record, he needs to come forward, testify to it in the Judiciary Committee. And listen, if there are things like that the Democrats are willing to commit to, I think that would be progress. Are we going to get the whistleblower as well?
Right.
Don't forget, this was the anonymous person who was not even on the phone call in question who triggered this entire investigation, okay, and who also has a lawyer who, from the beginning of 2017, is committed to a coup against the president. So we need to be very clear, Ed, if this is the way the Democrats are going to go forward, I think that's a conversation we'll have. But up until then, it's not really been a fair process.
In his letter to the president Friday, Jerry Nadler said something else I think has been missed by a lot of people. He said the Judiciary Committee has been engaged in an investigation concerning allegations that you, the president, may have engaged in acts of obstruction of justice as detailed in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report on the investigation in 2016. Hold on. Are they also considering articles of impeachment dating back to the Mueller report? I thought we already dealt with that.
Well, I think the clearest indication that they've failed, and they know they've failed, and I think a lot of Democrats will privately concede to the fact that the Intel Committee hearings did not produce the evidence they need to impeach the president. I think they have to resurrect the parts of the Mueller report as well. And this idea of obstruction is absurd. I mean, the president has rights under the Constitution. The executive branch has rights. He's exercised those rights. He's been accused of something that has not been proven in the least. So this idea that in the pursuit of defending himself, he's obstructed justice is another one of those absurdities that only occurs when you have this type of circus, which is why we keep our eye on the fact that the president's done nothing wrong. He's been fully transparent about this. Remember, he released that transcript, and ultimately the people agree. You look at the polling,
Last
and that's
question.
why
You alluded to this earlier. I'm going to give you a chance. The president's heading to London, and so he's not going to be around on Wednesday when the hearing starts. He could send his lawyers, as we mentioned. But it used to be that politics would sort of stop at the water's edge. Now here's the president going to London for a big NATO summit, and these impeachment hearings are going forward. How do you feel about that?
Look, I think the entire impeachment scam is unfortunate for the country. I think it's particularly unfortunate, but I don't think you could have a clearer contrast. The president is governing. He's representing our country with NATO, by the way, who he also said he would withhold funds from if other member countries
didn't step up. And he did that on camera.
And he did it on camera. And guess what? We got $100 billion more in NATO funding from other member countries because of the president's tough negotiation. This is a president who obviously wants to stick up for America. That's what he'll continue to do.
Tony, we appreciate you coming in.
Ed, great to see you.
We'll have you back soon.
Thanks.